Oliver from Rugby League in My Opinion here, and welcome back to Rugby League in My Opinion on the finals, or this week, I really should say Rugby League in My Opinion on the Grand Final, because as you see, I've changed the colour scheme up. It's not blue anymore, it's that black and gold Grand Final colours. We're there. It is Grand Final week. I'm joined by a very good friend of mine. As you can see, his Facebook page is below. Here comes the boom, everything sports, but as I like to call him, Sturg, and Sturg is a massive Melbourne Storm supporter, as you can see from the jersey he's wearing right now. How are you today, man?
I'm pretty good, mate. Obviously, there's a lot to be excited about from my point of view. You know, Melbourne Storm Grand Final, missing it last year, and I'm feeling pretty happy about our team's chances on Sunday. But obviously, we're going to get into those questions. But yeah, fizzing.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we'll just jump straight into it. What is your prediction for this Sunday?
Well, like I said, I'm confident, and obviously, I'm always going to probably say that because there's always going to be a bias there when your team's in these big games. But there's a reason the Panthers have been the favourites all years, but I probably haven't checked it over the last day. But you do see the Storm probably are being favoured in this, and it does a lot of it does come down to finals experience. The guys have been in big moments, especially we're going to hear the same headlines all week, but Cameron Smith, the likes of Munsters. I was just listening to a podcast before actually, and there was about 6 players that have played 15 or more finals games, and
Right.
Panthers only boast one, and that's
Yeah.
James Tarmo, who he's a great player, might even get back into New South Wales team this year, but he's not quite. I wouldn't pick him as the one of the top players. I think he's probably obviously he's the leader, he's the captain, but yeah, you see with Storm, their top players have all had their experience, and I'm just confident, and I'm trying not to, deminimise the Panthers. They've proven all year they say they're due a loss. Well, we sit here, they won 17 games in a row. They're flying high, but I think for me, I think they might get that loss this weekend. I get a bit of a vibe before I hand it over to you of the 2012 Grand Final when the Bulldogs were flying pretty hot. They had the superstar in Ben Barber. They've got the superstar in Nathan Cleary. The guys, obviously Cleary didn't get the Dalian Player of the Year, but that was their year. It was Barber's year. It was Cleary's year. I'm getting the vibe that it's similar circumstances. Still teams that it's not just built around them. They're well rounded, but yeah, the Storm. I think the Storm have just got the edge for me, and I think it will be a tight game, but I think it will be a convincing tight win.
Yeah, that's a really interesting comparison you make there. I've not heard anyone else make the comparison, but yeah, there is those similarities. And of course, the last team other than the Storm or Roosters to win the minor premiership was that 2012 Bulldog side. So there you go. But when talking about comparisons, right, and this in no way, shape, or form has come into my prediction, which I'll make in a moment, there are some eerie similarities to the 2003 Grand Final, the last time Penrith won the premiership. And they're just sort of, for me, they're just sort of weird. They're just sort of odd anomalies, I guess you could say. The first of which being the father-son dynamic. The last time a father-son won the premiership was in 2003. Johnny Lang coaching Penrith then, and Martin Lang, of course, was in the side. Of course, this year we've got Ivan and Nathan Cleary. And I actually had to think about this because I heard a couple of days ago, and I'm going to have the poncho ready this Sunday, that at the game it is going to be pouring down rain. Apparently it's going to be a very wet grand final. The last time we had proper rain at a grand final was the 2003 grand final. And I sort of thought since, I was like, no, surely there's been a wet weather grand final since, or one that's like been hit by like pretty significant conditions. Maybe we've had a couple with a sprinkle here or there for a couple of minutes, but there's never been a wet weather grand final since 2003. I quickly went through the years in my head, and none of them experienced that sort of wet conditions. Which again, they're just coincidences. And this Sunday, who knows? The rain could hold off, but it's predicted to be a pretty wet game. But yeah, I just sort of thought that was interesting, I guess. Like, again, doesn't come into the predictions, but yeah, just a couple of interesting things. And of course, I would probably say, and this is just from going back and watching the game and seeing highlights from the 03 season and what people have told me who were prominent rugby league fans then. But Melbourne seemed to be just about as favoured to win the premiership, if not a little bit less, than the Roosters were in 2003. So there are those things that are sort of lining up. Again, doesn't really mean anything. Of course, unless Penrith win, then everyone will go, well, it's because it all lined up. But with all that being said, I'm tipping the Melbourne Storm. I think this is, I am tipping the Storm. Like, I've got to go with that finals experience. Look, as many of you know, I live in the Penrith area. I go to most of Penrith's games. My dad and my brother, who I have been going to games with for years, are mad Penrith supporters and have ridden the lot highs and lows. But every year they just come up short. So I know you're a Storm fan, but for them, and especially because I'll be at the game with them, I will be supporting Penrith, and I hope Penrith can get the win. However, I look at it like this. Sturk, if you were to put a gun to my head right now, although it wouldn't do much through the camera, but let's just say we're in the same room and you put a gun to my head and said, who's winning this weekend? Myself, and I think along with most people, even a few people who are tipping Penrith, would tip the Storm. What do you reckon?
Yeah, obviously, like I said, going to be biased, but I tend to agree. But yeah, just going back to there is a bit of that eerie feeling. You bring up the father-son combination, you bring up the wet weather footy. Talk about the comparisons between Gower, had a great year that year as the halfback. We got Cleary. I think the big one was being the obvious favourites was the Roosters, and it's not, maybe like you said, not as significant, but Storm are being tipped even when the Panthers were minor premiers that year too.
Yep,
I believe.
Oh yeah, they
and
were.
Minor premiers this year. So you'd think the minor premiers should be favourite, and they're probably the rare, circumstances where these two minor premiers aren't the favourites. So it's just that thing, and I think ultimately, like we said, it's the big game. They've been there before, but credit to the Panthers. Like I said, they've been there all year. They've only lost one game. They've just got that swagger. They've got that confidence. Every time they score a try, even if they're down, I remember that try they scored against the Roosters when they were down 12-0 to make it 12-4. They were down. Stephen Crichton's jumping on Josh Mansour like they won the game. Like they were, everyone was questioning them. It was their first finals game. They come up against the back-to-back premiers. They were down by 12 really early, and to just, jumping out of their socks to celebrate it, and then they put on about 24 points by halftime. So these Panthers are scary, and I don't think it's going to be the first of many grand finals they feature in the 2020s. If I was to put my money on it, this will definitely not be their last finals appearance in the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to agree right now. However, rugby league, as we know, is a very topsy-turvy sport. And you know what? In 2021, although they'll keep a few of them, I know Jerome Luai and Stephen Crichton have already said they want to stay at Penrith for life and will be re-signing. They do have a fair bit of talent who can negotiate with other clubs next year. And I believe they've got 12 players who will be off contract next year. They'll keep at least 6, I think, but you don't keep all of them. But you know what? They'll still probably have enough talent to kick on. It was just sort of a bit of food for thought there. I've actually just remembered a couple of other circumstantial kind of coincidence things that are about the Storm, but, they aren't necessarily good. So,
don't know if I want to hear them over.
Well, no, I gotta say everything that I've heard. First of all, I see you're wearing a lovely Melbourne Storm home jersey there. This Sunday, Melbourne will be wearing their away jersey, and Melbourne have never won a premiership in their away jersey. I'm just trying to think. I don't think they've ever lost a grand final in their home jersey though.
They
So
would have in
oh,
2016, maybe.
2016 they did. My apologies.
Mm.
2016
Yeah,
they did.
yeah.
But yeah, in the away jersey, they are yet to win a grand final. So you look sort of, and they lost in 2006 as well in their home jersey. But 2008 they were in their away jersey. I believe 2018 they were in the away jersey as well. So they're 0-2 when in the away jersey in the grand final. It's also the 10-year anniversary of, unfortunately, the Storm's darkest period. Although they bounced back in 2011, but the 10-year anniversary of that, no one's really spoken about it in the media this week. And I kind of understand because people don't want to talk about that scandal. But I wonder if, at least for a Cameron Smith and Craig Bellamy, who were there during the time, I wonder how that impacts them if just, I guess, if this premiership will mean more, partly because of that. 10 years on, when it first happened, the salary cap scandal, and Melbourne had to get rid of a few players, a lot of people were predicting them to drop right down for the next few years. And, for 10 years later, to be able to look back, and they've won 2 premierships in that time, multiple minor premierships, have been in now 4 of the past 5 grand finals. I guess it's not exactly the 10-year anniversary, it's a bit over 10 years, but I guess as a Melbourne Storm fan as well, for 10 years, 10 years later to win the premiership would be a huge thing for the Melbourne Storm. But at the end of the day, I think I've been talking a bit too much about, the ifs and the coincidences. I've talked up Melbourne. I said I think their finals experience get them over the line. What I'm sort of predicting as well is that it'll be something like 8-6 to Melbourne, and there'll be 10, 15 minutes to go, and then Melbourne will just kick on. So it'll be a close game for the majority, but I just have that feeling right at the end, Melbourne will kick on, and it'll end up something like 26-6 or something, which, as I said, I'm supporting Penrith in this one, but that's just how I sort of see it going down. We'll move on now to the Clive Churchill medal winner. Now, I'm tipping Cameron Smith, and whether or not he has a really good game, I think it's hard for him not to get it. My prediction is if Melbourne win at all, doesn't matter by how much, he gets it. Or even if Penrith win by a close margin, I think he nearly almost gets it, just even for the story. I have a feeling it'll be similar to a Jonathan Thurston situation in 15, unless, of course, Cameron Smith has a really good game, which, let's be honest, he has a really good game most games, so that wouldn't be a surprise. And, of course, fingers crossed he doesn't, but if he were to get injured earlier in the game or something was to happen, then obviously he likely wouldn't get it because there would be no justifiable reason then. Sturk, who are you tipping to win the Clive Churchill medal?
Yeah, I'm on the fence with 2 players, and Smith is one of them. There's
Yep.
just that factor, it's the only thing he hasn't won. I also think and I'm a Billy Slater fan, like probably a lot of your listeners don't realise Billy Slater is my favourite player, why I started really following rugby league and why I followed the Melbourne Storm today. Even though Billy Slater was really good that game, set up some tries and scored one himself. I thought Cameron Smith was fantastic and was really surprised he didn't get it. Anyway, like you said, there could be a factor. I shouldn't say he doesn't deserve it, but there's that Thurston factor where it's like, okay, he's done a few things that we're gonna give it to him. We want to send them out with this medal. But I hope at the end of the day, the person that wins it deserves it.
Yep.
And I'm not saying, like you said, he could well and truly. I'm going to go just a bit different, just to swing things up. I'm going to go with a guy that I reckon is going to eat up the meters, similar to what Chance did last year. I thought Chance was arguably the best player in the Raiders last year in the grand final with Jack Wyden. And I see a similar performance from Ryan Pappenhausen. And the thing with Ryan Pappenhausen, he could be man the match by, getting 200 meters, being your extra forward, just making havoc. Or he could be the one scoring 1 or 2 tries. He could be the one setting up tries. He could be the one, linking up with Jerome Hughes with the inside ball, similar to the Cronks and the Slaters and all that. So I see different ways of him getting it depending on how the game is played. He could be the one making tries, saving tackles. He's really stepped up in that department this year, being a great cover at the back there. So I'm going to say Ryan Pappenhausen, but there is a feeling that Smith will get it because he's due one, and it hurt. Yeah. He's due one. And I do hate when awards are given like that, just because it's like, hey, you've had this great career. No, come on, guys, focus on the one game.
It is the one game, yeah.
Yeah, because that first one, you think, oh, then the first one didn't win it. Who should have got it? I thought Jake Granville was great for his team. And
there are a number.
I'm never a fan of, well, I shouldn't say never a fan of the loser winning, but Anthony Milford was great that game. Yep. So, yeah, Ryan Pappenhausen, lock it in.
There we go, Ryan Pappenhausen. Sturk, one last question before we head off. You are obviously, as we said before, a Melbourne Storm supporter. Obviously, for any fan, it won't just be the Penrith fans who are there for a third Cinderella story, but the Melbourne fans as well. They're going to be nervous heading into this one, of course. It's a grand final. For you, confident / nervous? First of all, what are you currently feeling? And I guess, how are the nerves compared to other grand finals? Where does this year sort of rank?
Oh, so I'll just talk about the highest ranked one was Sydney Roosters 2018.
Yeah.
I was going to that grand final and wanting to watch my favourite player play, and I wasn't too sure if he was going to play because he did a shoulder charge the week before. So that was a week from hell. That was awful. And then I think all that stress got to the boys in the end.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's similar to the Bulldogs. The Cowboys one, I was the most confident one. And then this is similar to the Bulldogs. I'm actually probably, should I say probably a little bit less confident, just because they've just, each week, like we said, they're going to lose this week. They're going to lose this week.
Yeah.
And they just turn out. Also, I thought last week was almost a good game. I wouldn't say perfect game, but it was an ideal game for the Panthers. They let a couple opportunities slip. It gave them a bit of a wake-up call. They blew about 2 or 3 chances early, and still, even with those nervy kind of moments early, they'll still able to pull it out of the hat. So if they were just to blow Rabbitohs out of the park, and we kind of, we kept them kind of eased and this is bloody piece of cake. That could have been really dangerous for the Panthers, but because they had some shakes last week, it was an easy game. We've had 2 games where we've comfortably won. We've had, against the Eels, we were down at halftime, but we were able to come through and put a pretty handy scoreline on them.
Yep.
And then the Raiders was, we won that game within the first 20 minutes. But yeah, so the Panthers, probably that's why I probably rank it. I'm a little bit more nervous than I was against the Bulldogs, but I'm confident just because of the guys we've got on our teams, the Smiths, the Munsters, and the Pappenhausens, and Craig Bellamy.
Yeah. So would you say you're leaning more on the side of confident?
Yeah.
Nervous,
I am confident. I hope it doesn't come across cocky, but it's confident.
Yeah. So, no, we've got the confident to worry meter here. So right up here at confident was 2017 for you, which at the end of the day, I think I've said before on here, I think I tipped the Cowboys in that grand final, and I've never tipped with wishfulness again. Otherwise, I would be tipping Penrith this week. So we got 2017 up here. Down the other end, the very worried was that 2018 grand final against the Sydney Roosters, which unfortunately in the end, I think your nerves were telling a bit of the truth there. They were it was justified. We go sort of up
2016.
a bit more. 2016, where were you there? Were you still relatively confident?
I was about 5, 6-ish. I was more confident than I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a lot of Origin players. Jimmy Maloney was a factor that I kind of thought of as well. He's turned up in big games at New South Wales, and also got the Roosters to a grand final win.
Yeah, so that's sort of like that's still in the confident, but not all the way up.
Yep.
Yeah, 2012, we're sort of down near teetering, still in confident. You were for that one. You're still confident.
I was pretty confident about that game.
Yeah, and with this year, this Sunday, you're just above that. Bulldogs won. So you
Tell you what, they're probably going for a draw, I reckon.
a draw. So right there, you're probably about a 3 on the confidence scale as opposed to a 10. But you're not in the worried zone necessarily. You're more confident. Yeah.
More
So
confident.
there's only
Losses.
been one grand final you've been worried about, and that's when Melbourne lost by the biggest margin, and when they were beaten most easily. So hopefully that's a good omen that you are feeling confident, you are feeling relatively good. Any other Melbourne supporters watching this will probably be feeling pretty good after your track record. They've only lost once, and they just lost in 2016 when you were feeling relatively confident. But other than that, they've been solid. Sturk, thank you so much for coming on today. As I said, while I will be leaning towards supporting Penrith just because of my family and the area I live in, for you, the best of luck to the Melbourne Storm. It's going to be a cracker of the game. I can't wait to watch it. And once again, man, thank you for coming on. And thank you guys for watching.
No problem, Ozza. Appreciate it once again. Enjoy the grand final, guys. It's going to be a ripper.